Welcome, folks, to new story titled, Smug Karen hosted a 160-person wedding on my property without permission. Big mistake. Part 1, The Sanctuary and the Serpent. My name is Arthur, and for the last 10 years, I have lived on a slice of heaven I call Blackwood Ridge. It's 40 acres of rolling hills, dense pine forest, and a pristine wildflower meadow that looks like something out of a Bob Ross painting. I bought it specifically for the isolation. I work in high-frequency trading. My days are filled with screaming numbers, flashing screens, and noise. When I come home, I want silence. I want to hear crickets, not traffic. I want to see fireflies, not headlights. For the first 8 years, it was perfect. My property is bordered on 3 sides by state forest, which means no development. But the 4th side, the eastern border, abuts a large, formerly empty lot that was recently subdivided. Enter the Serpent, or as she introduced herself 2 years ago, Mrs. Linda Hightower. Linda is a woman who wears her entitlement like a suit of armor. She and her husband, a quiet man who looks like he's been apologizing for her existence for 30 years, built a monstrosity of a house right on the edge of my property line. It's one of those McMansions. Too much stucco, too many columns, and a lawn so chemically treated it probably glows in the dark. From day one, Linda was a problem. First, it was the fence. She didn't like my split-rail wooden fence because it looked too rustic and clashed with her Tuscan modern farmhouse aesthetic. She demanded I replace the 400-yard stretch with white vinyl. I politely declined. Then it was the trees. I have a row of ancient oaks near the property line. She sent me a certified letter claiming their shade was preventing her prize-winning hydrangeas from reaching their full potential and demanded I trim them. I sent her back a copy of a horticultural study on shade-tolerant hydrangeas and told her to pound sand. But these were just skirmishes. I didn't realize we were heading for a nuclear war until the summer of the wedding. It was early June. The meadow on the south side of my property, my favorite spot, about a quarter mile from my house but directly adjacent to Linda's backyard, was in full bloom. It's a beautiful spot, flat, green, surrounded by pines with a view of the mountains in the distance. I had been away on business in Tokyo for 2 weeks. I landed on a Thursday afternoon, exhausted, jet-lagged, and dreaming of a whiskey on my back porch. As my Uber crunched up my long gravel driveway, I noticed something odd. There were tire tracks, heavy ones, deep ruts cut into the grass along the side of my private access road. Must be the power company, I muttered to myself, tipping the driver and dragging my suitcase inside. I crashed immediately, sleeping for 14 hours straight. I woke up Friday morning to the sound of beeping. The kind of rhythmic beep, beep, beep of heavy machinery backing up. I made coffee, rubbed the sleep from my eyes, and stepped out onto my deck. My deck overlooks the ridge, giving me a view of the entire southern meadow. I dropped my mug. It shattered, splashing hot coffee over my bare feet, but I didn't even feel it. There, in my meadow, my private posted fenced-in meadow, was a circus. I'm not exaggerating. A massive white marquee tent, easily 60 feet long, was being erected in the center of the field. A fleet of white box trucks with the logo Platinum Events and Catering were parked on my grass. Men were unloading stacks of gold chivalry chairs, round tables, and what looked like a portable dance floor. And there, standing in the middle of it all, pointing a manicured finger at a worker carrying a floral arch, was Linda. Part 2, The Confrontation. I didn't bother changing out of my robe. I shoved my feet into boots, jumped into my Polaris Ranger, a utility train vehicle, and tore down the hill. I was seeing red. I was seeing crimson. I was seeing every shade of rage that exists in the human spectrum. I skidded to a halt near the tent, spraying mud onto the side of one of the catering trucks. "Hey!" I bellowed, stepping out. "What the hell is this?" The workers froze. A guy holding a staple gun looked from me to Linda. Linda turned slowly. She was wearing a wide-brimmed sun hat and holding a clipboard. She looked at me not with fear, but with annoyance, like I was a waiter who had brought her the wrong wine. Arthur," she said, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. "You're back early. We thought you were in China." "Japan," I snapped. "And why are there 3 trucks and a circus tent on my property?" She sighed, adjusting her sunglasses. "Oh, don't be dramatic. Look at our yard." She gestured to her property. "Our lawn is terraced. It's too uneven for the tent. Selby wanted a flat, rustic, meadow chic vibe. Your field is just sitting here doing nothing. It's just weeds, Arthur. We're actually improving it by mowing a section." I looked down. They had indeed mowed a massive square of my wildflowers, scalped them right down to the dirt. "You are trespassing," I said, my voice dangerously low. "You are destroying my property. I want this gone now." She scoffed. "No, don't be ridiculous. The wedding is tomorrow at 4 p.m. The guests are flying in. The vendors are paid. We can't move it now." "That sounds like a you problem," I said. "You have 1 hour to get this crap off my land before I call the sheriff." She stepped closer, dropping the sweet act. Her eyes narrowed. "Now listen to me. This is the most important day of my daughter's life. We have 160 guests coming. Senator Mitchell is coming. If you try to ruin this, I will make your life a living hell. I'm on the zoning board. I know the sheriff personally. You're the one who's never here, letting this land go to rot. We're just borrowing it for 48 hours. Be a good neighbor for once in your sad, lonely life." She turned her back on me. "Steve, move that arch 2 feet to the left." I stood there for a moment, stunned by the sheer gravitational pull of her audacity. She truly believed she was in the right. She believed that because I wasn't using the land in a way she approved of, she had eminent domain over it. I walked over to the lead caterer planner, a guy named Marcus who looked like he wanted to be anywhere else. "Marcus," I said calmly, "do you have a contract for this venue?" "Yeah, man. Mrs. Hightower signed it. She said she owned the acreage." "She lied," I said. "This is private property. If you are here tomorrow, you will be trespassing. I will have you arrested, and I will sue your company for damages." Marcus turned pale. He looked at Linda. "Ma'am, does she own this land?" "He's just being difficult," Linda shrieked. "Ignore him. I'm paying you double." Marcus looked at me, then at the check in his pocket, then back at me. Greed won out. He shrugged. "Sorry, buddy. I take my orders from the client." Okay. I got back in my Ranger and drove up the hill. I didn't go back to the house, though. I went to the barn. Part 3, the assessment. I sat on a hay bale and forced myself to breathe. Option A, call the police. I tried this immediately. I called the non-emergency line. "Sheriff's office. Hi, this is Arthur Blackwood. My neighbor is setting up a wedding venue on my property without permission. Is anyone in immediate danger?" "No, but they are trespassing." "Sir, that sounds like a civil dispute. If the boundary lines aren't clearly marked, we can't really do anything. You'll need a surveyor or a court order. We can't stop a wedding based on a he said, she said property line dispute on a Friday afternoon." Linda wasn't lying. She knew the system. By the time I got a court order, the wedding would be over. She would pay a small fine, maybe $500 for trespassing, and she would have gotten exactly what she wanted. She banked on forgiveness being cheaper than permission. Option B, physical removal. If I went down there with my shotgun, which I own for coyotes, I would be the one going to jail. Brandishing a weapon, assault? No. Linda would love that. She'd sue me for millions. Option C, the nuclear option. I looked around my barn. I saw my tools. I saw my tractor. And then I saw the control panel for the agricultural irrigation system I'd installed 3 years ago to help regenerate the wildflower biodiversity during droughts. It was a high-pressure system fed by a pond that collected runoff. Then I remembered something else. The back 40 needed fertilizing. I usually used a granular mix, but I had recently bought a massive tank of liquid organic fertilizer. It wasn't toxic, but it was potent. It was fish emulsion and seaweed concentrate, dark brown, oily, and it smelled like the bottom of a crab boat that had been left in the sun for a week. I pulled out my phone and called my buddy Hank. Hank runs a towing company. Not just any towing company. Hank runs Iron Hook Recovery. They do repos. They deal with angry people for a living. "Hank," I said, "how would you like to make a few $1,000 in cash tomorrow?" "Arthur, who do I have to kill?"
Nobody, but I'm going to have about 60 to 80 cars parking illegally on my private land. The signage is posted, private property, towing enforced at owner's expense. I want you to clear the board. Hank laughed. It was a dark, beautiful sound. I can get the boys from the next county. We can have 6 trucks staging just down the road. When do we strike? Wait for this ceremony to start. Once the bride walks down the aisle, nobody is going back to their cars. Copy that. What about the guests? They gonna be mad? Let them be mad. Oh, Hank, and bring the heavy-duty winches. Some of these might be luxury SUVs. I hung up. Then I walked over to the irrigation controls. The system was zoned. Zone 4 was the meadow. I checked the mix tank. It was full. I set the timer. Saturday, 4:15 p.m. I went back to the house, poured myself that whiskey, and waited. Part 4. The wedding day. Saturday was a beautiful day. Blue skies.
Light breeze. Perfect for a wedding. From my deck, I watched the invasion. Starting at 2:30 p.m., the cars began to arrive. Luxury sedans, Teslas, Range Rovers. Because Linda's driveway was already full of catering vans, the guests were parking on my access road and in the upper part of the meadow. They were parking on the grass I spent years cultivating. I saw women in pastel dresses navigating the uneven ground in high heels. I saw men in linen suits. At 3:30 p.m., the music started. A string quartet, very classy. At 3:45 p.m., the seats were full. 160 people facing the altar, the floral arch that was sitting exactly 150 feet inside my property line. I sat on my deck 300 yards up the hill with a pair of high-powered binoculars and a cold beer. At 4 p.m., the music changed. Here comes the bride. Shelby, the daughter, looked beautiful, I have to admit. She walked down the aisle. Linda was dabbing her eyes in the front row. The officiant began to speak. Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today in this pristine sanctuary of nature. Buzz. My phone vibrated. Text from Hank. Assets acquired. We are moving in on the rear flank. ETA 2 minutes. I texted Dak, green light on Operation Repossession. Down at the road, unseen by the wedding party, who were facing away from the driveway towards the mountains, 6 tow trucks rolled silently into position. They worked with the efficiency of a pit crew. They weren't towing them far, just to the impound lot 20 miles away. One by one, the Range Rovers and Mercedes started getting hooked up. Because of the soft grass, the tow trucks had to use extra torque. There was the occasional mechanical whine, but the string quartet masked it well. 4:10 p.m., the vows. Do you, Shelby, take this man? I looked at my watch. It was time for the scheduled agricultural maintenance. I picked up my iPad, which controlled the smart home features of the farm. I opened the irrigation app. I selected Zone 4. I selected Inject Additive Tank B Organic Fertilizer. I set the pressure to high. I hovered my finger over the Activate button. Speak now, I whispered, or forever hold your peace. I tapped the screen. Part 5. The Deluge. Physics is a wonderful thing. When you pressurize a liquid in a pipe that has been sitting in the sun, there's a momentary delay before the release. Down in the meadow, the first sign that something was wrong was the sound. A low, subterranean rumble. The guests looked around confused. Was it thunder? Then came the thwack, thwack, thwack of the pop-up sprinkler heads rising from the grass. There were 12 industrial-grade agricultural sprinklers concealed in that meadow. 4 of them were directly inside the tent. 6 were surrounding it. The first blast hit the string quartet. It wasn't a gentle mist. These are rain guns designed to water acres of corn. They shoot a jet of water 50 feet, and the water wasn't clear. It was brown, oily, frothy, a mixture of lukewarm pond water and concentrated fish gut fertilizer blasted into the cello player, knocking his instrument out of his hand. Screams erupted. "What is that? It smells like death." The oscillating heads turned. Ch-ch-ch, whoosh. A stream of brown sludge hit the mother of the bride, Linda, square in the chest. Her pale pink dress turned an instant shade of sewage brown. She shrieked, a sound that I will cherish until my dying day. Then the sprinklers inside the tent activated. Panic. Absolute pandemonium. 160 people tried to exit a tent through one opening simultaneously. Chairs were overturned. The cake table, the beautiful 5-tier cake, took a direct hit from a high-pressure nozzle. It dissolved into a sad pile of soggy fondant. People were slipping in the mud. The smell hit them a second later. If you've never smelled fish emulsion fertilizer, imagine a fish market inside a gym rocker located in a swamp. It sticks to skin. It sticks to fabric. The bride was screaming, her white dress now a tie-dye of mud and brown water. The groom tried to cover her with his jacket, but he took a blast to the face. I sat on my deck, sipping my beer. I said, nature is healing. Part 6. The Aftermath. The fallout was glorious. 1. The towing fees. Hank charged emergency weekend extraction rates. It cost each guest $350 to get their car back. Linda had to pay for most of them to stop her friends from suing her. 2. The cleaning bills. Fish emulsion doesn't dry clean out. It stains. Thousands of dollars in designer suits and dresses were ruined. The lawsuit. Linda tried to sue me for intentional infliction of emotional distress. My lawyer responded with a countersuit for trespass, property damage. They killed a lot of grass with that tent, and environmental remediation. I claimed their catering trucks leaked oil. Because Linda had admitted to the police that she knew it wasn't her land, her case was dismissed. The judge actually laughed when he saw the photos. Mrs. Hightower, you held a wedding in a cow pasture without asking the farmer, and you're surprised you got dirty? She ended up settling. She paid me $4,000 for the damage to the meadow and my legal fees. The best part? Shelby, the daughter, actually came over a month later. She wasn't mad. She told me that she never wanted a big wedding. She wanted to elope. Her mother forced the mega wedding on her to show off to her friends. Honestly, she said, suppressing a smile, seeing my mother covered in fish poop was the highlight of my year. It saved me from writing thank you notes to 160 people I didn't know. Linda put up a 10-foot privacy hedge the next week. She doesn't look at me when we check the mail anymore. But every Saturday at 4:15 p.m., when my sprinklers click on, I see her blinds twitch, and I smile.
Thank you for watching. Let me know if you enjoyed by clicking the like button. And for more such stories, subscribe to HOA Revenge Stories.